Why is it so important to calm yourself through the work of the body rather than convincing yourself that there is nothing to be anxious about the situation?
I would not even straight away drop into the conclusions or to calm yourself. I think for me, these type of practices are just a way to come into the present moment, whatever that present moment is. I can also do something like that in a queue at Rewe. And that not necessarily always means that I am insanely agitated and I have to change something and calm myself. It's more like there's something happening right now, and to leave whatever was happening before this, even our conversation in the kitchen, right? Or like me coming to here through the street, all of that has already happened. And right now I need to be present right here, right now. So for me, these type of practices are a way to be present. And I feel the body and the breath is one of the easiest ways, because you always have it on you. You don't need a meditation pillow. You don't need any extras that your mind will cling to, that I have to have this thing and otherwise I cannot do this. But here's your breath and your body. So you always have them with you. So translates, you can always be present.
And why is it so important to be present?
I honestly think you just do things better when you're present. As in, you live life better. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about the work that you're doing. When you are there, when your attention is there, I think the fullness of the moment is there and you can live it fully. Again, that might be in a task of your work as well. These are not two mutually exclusive things, I guess.
I guess that this was like a small teaser of the work that we did together for months last year, which was truly life-changing for me, because I was really looking for the help of someone to help me understand what my emotions were, how to understand them, because I think that as many high achievers have learned throughout their life, I really learned a lot how to use my head, and therefore as a consequence, I was very much into my head the whole time. But then when people will tell me, will suggest me, to just trust my own gut feeling, I just didn't even know what the gut feeling is. And with that in mind, maybe we could start off again, maybe giving like a bit of intro of what your work actually entails, because I think that on the website you call yourself as a confidence coach, if I'm not wrong. What does it mean in theory, and also what does it mean then, of course, more in practice?
So the word confidence itself, and someone actually told me this, I did not put myself as a confidence coach because I realized this before, just a disclaimer. The word confidence comes from Latin, confidere, and essentially confidere means being in trust with oneself and outside world. And for me, confidence is not necessarily the fact that you will be able to smash your presentation or that you can confidently speak in front of 50 people or more. What I mean by confidence, and this is also something that came up from feedback of my coachees after the journey, is that they're just more trusting their own decisions and more trusting their own, as you also said, like right gut feeling or intuition. Therefore, also more trusting the world and not necessarily every single person in the world, but like the flow of life and the fact that whatever happens, you can figure things out. It will be you figuring those things out. And that is this confidence within. When we strip all of the fluff that comes on us through life, at the end of the day, there is this core calmness. And this is why I think my experience within the yoga world and yoga practice, asana, but also meditation and yoga as a whole, brings, I believe, a very important bit into the coaching. Yes, it's the body bit, feel your body, etc. But it also brings like the spiritual teachings from yoga, but into the Western everyday life through the confidence lens. Oh, probably that.
In what ways does your work differ from the work of a therapist, let's say? Or why would someone go to you, as I did, compared to go to a therapist?
100%. So both of the things have a complete right to exist, and at the different times in people's lives. I have a lot of clients who come to me whilst they're still in therapy, or they are kind of on the way out from the therapy. How I explain it to the clients mostly is that therapy is the space where you come in with questions of something is wrong, I don't know what. Like something is wrong in my life and I need to look at the problem and identify the problem, right? Whereas you come into coaching with a little bit different inner feeling. The inner feeling is of, okay, I know that I want to be moving forward. There are certain things I've already noticed, right? Like you are a lot in your head, you notice that you do not connect your gut feeling, etc., etc. And you also sort of know where you want to be going, but you're just not making the steps. You don't know how to get there, right? So you come into the coaching when you are ready. Very often you do not come into the therapy with a feeling, I'm ready. You come into the therapy, okay, something is going wrong, let me know. And in some funny way, the coaching that we did and the coaching I do, these 4 months, there is a part where we discover some of the challenges that you might have not even thought about before. Like, let's say, like you would in a therapy. But the idea of the coaching for you to come in ready. Now with the Confidence Club brand, actually the slogan of it became for the you that's ready, for the you that's fearless, for the you that is just getting started. So in these couple of sentences, that's basically how are you feeling coming into the confidence coaching.
Just for context, would you mind expanding on what the Confidence Club is?
Yeah. So the Confidence Club is the brand that I have created from the work that I'm doing and the coaching that we went through, as well as, to be honest, any experience that I create, be it a yoga class or be it a retreat, goes through three pillars. That is see, feel, and bloom. See is the place where we create awareness. Feel is the place where we dig in and work deep. And bloom is somewhere where we come out with inspiration. It's like a new spring for you. Because I've been telling you this before as well. I don't think old you is bad. Old you is great. It took you where you are right now. And we're just building on that and kind of shaping that. So Confidence Club is a space where this particular method is used. We call it Connected Confidence Method, these 3 steps. And this brand holds the coaching, the community, because I've been hearing a lot from the people I worked with of like, how do we continue being in touch? You know, Berlin, people come and go. So I've created also a WhatsApp community where we are all together and I offer content and people can also interact. And also just because I love it, there's some events and experiences like retreats or music and art curated events as well. It's just because I personally completely love it.
Beautiful. Yeah, I felt a lot of FOMO in all of these travelings that I had, because every time you had like very cool events and I couldn't participate. But for anybody interested, I'll leave the link in the description.
Thank you.
But going back on the topic of maybe you discover something that you would have usually discovered in a therapy session or in a therapy journey. That actually happened to me with you a couple of times. And just for context, so I had been on a therapy journey for a year, 1 year before we started. And again, this is just my personal experience. I was able to rationalize many things, or at least to pinpoint to the very surface level things. But then, given that I was very closed off emotionally, I wasn't really able to uncover the truth of things. And maybe like the first example that comes to mind is, so I had a very, let's say, sort of interesting, bad relationship with my mom. And rationally, I knew that more or less, of course, it had impacted me. But then it was only through you that I truly discovered how deep the wounds were in that case. And I think that why this really worked well in our working together is because you were really able to first create a safe space emotionally, and with the things that you do in terms of, I don't know, the way you talk, and now I'm going to ask you how you do it, you were just able to basically disintegrate the sort of protective layer that I had put on myself. So how do you usually do this?
Funny enough, right now the main answer comes in by being present. Before creating Confidence Club, my main website was Aleks Kop Yoga, and the first, I guess that's a slogan, right, was I give my full presence to you so you can be present with yourself. Because I feel, and my mentee asked me the same thing about like, how do you talk like this? I feel when you allow yourself to be present, fully present in the moment, there's sort of like a source that opens up, right? And there's a lot of also studies around that, right? Like around our subconscious and things, and that's where a lot of our information is stored. So the things that you might have been watching, reading, or getting inspired, they come forward at a time and space when they're needed. This is how I feel most of the times. This is more in classes and let's say in workshops or in retreats. But in the coaching, I think I can't put it better than you did. It's more creating a safe space and being super present with the person. And believe me, that's enough for the people to drop the guard and to take time to be at last present with themselves. I think one small difference maybe from the journey that we had and the journey that I'm curating with people, especially in the middle, in the feel section, the difference between that and the therapy is, and I wouldn't say therapy as a whole, because nowadays there's a lot, very, very lot of different techniques. And I even did a workshop of a Hakomi method, which is a mindfulness-based psychotherapy method, where I felt so at home at last. I was like, this is actually what I do. This is amazing. And the difference is that there is the conversational part of the therapy where you go through the words and conversations in your mind and you give that to the therapist, right? And let's say your eyes are open and you are still feeling like in a normal sort of life situation. Whereas in the coaching that I offer, and some parts of Hakomi method are by the way, Hakomi also starts with meditation all the time, to be present, is, if you remember, to go deeper, we very often close the eyes, right? So you don't need to perform in front of me anymore. Because when your eyes are open, you're in the space, you see the person you want to, in a certain way, perform, even in a therapy session. And then if you remember, there are techniques as well that ask how your body feels, but also we use techniques to sort of go away from your rational mind story and to really dig deeper into the feeling. Sometimes I even asked you, what's the color of that feeling? What's the shape of that feeling? So you can move away from your normal storytelling rational mind. And it doesn't mean that, by the way, it doesn't mean that the color means anything. It is just a technique for you to stop the story, because we live in our story. And I think in your particular example as well, even talking about the story with the therapist, or even starting to talk about the story with your friends, or even with me in the beginning, is one lived experience, story. But when we step away from the story and we kind of are able to look on how we feel about the story, that's the game changer that comes in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense, because maybe what has happened throughout my life is that I was giving my own interpretation of what had happened. And of course, it's like a self-reinforcing reinterpretation. And whenever I was talking about it, either with friends to quote unquote open up, or with my therapist, then I was sort of detaching myself from it, again, to protect me, because I didn't want to look weak, or anyway, as you said, I wanted to perform. Not in a bad way, I didn't want to look bad, no? And when in the case, I guess when you were asking me about the colors or the shapes, it is as if we shifted our focus from the story to the actual thing that is happening now within your body, regardless if that's accurate, overwhelming, underwhelming, if it's detailed enough to represent the story. It's just you in that moment. And I remember our first session, which was our discovery session. Around those times, I had these regretful feelings toward my dad, or anyway, I just felt a victim of the things that he didn't do for me in the past. Which, according to my narrative, was things for, I don't know, I was very good at maths. He could have sent me to the Olympics of math in Paris or stuff like that, no? And then what you had asked me was whatever I felt about this whole thing, to give it a shape. And then, I don't know how, in a matter of 5 minutes, I just started crying for like 20 minutes. And that's...
Well, wasn't 20 minutes.
Okay, maybe there was a bit of exaggeration, but it was really like intense session for the remaining of the call, which was at least half an hour. Maybe it wasn't like throughout crying like in a movie.
People will be like, oh my God, I'm going to come to 1 hour session and cry for 20 minutes.
This doesn't sound good at all.
Totally normal, by the way, but still.
And that really solved it. It was something that I had been dealing with for a couple of months. And then we just, quote unquote, solved it. I was just like, okay, I'm actually very, very happy for what my dad did for me. Yeah, it's interesting, these associating shapes and colors. I don't know if you want to expand on...
Well, what I want to expand on is what you're saying right now is a very, very good example of, how can I explain this? Like what actually hits you in a sense of, so we have a story about the thing, right? We all have hundreds of stories. Is it the story of the past? Is it the story even of the present? How you want to be perceived, etc., etc. Usually people come to therapy or come to coaching or come to any kind of external help because they are saying that these patterns, these stories, they can feel that they're impacting their life somehow, right? Either you're anxious, either you cannot sleep, or you're incredibly reactive, let's say. Actually, reactive is a very good example in here. I think it's going to be the easiest one. You have a story in your childhood, but now what is happening in your life, you're very reactive in your relationships, in your work. You just blow the fuse like straight away. And the funniest thing is, yes, of course, through the course of therapy or self-inquiry, you can understand that maybe, oh, okay, this reactiveness comes from this story in my life, because my parents were reacting when I was young, etc., etc. Great. The understanding of that is great. And this is what you're telling about within the therapy, cognitive, etc. Great. You have an understanding. When we start working with, okay, tell me a little bit of a story, and then close your eyes, shape, tell me what you're feeling right now. What does come up? We are starting to work with the reaction, which usually happens when you bring back that story. So if this is the story and you keep working just on story, you might even keep, doing exercises to forgive your parents, maybe, God knows, spiritual cord cutting ceremonies, everything, but your whole work is still here with the story. And when we drop into the body, we bring up the story in order for you to bring the reaction up. That's why you want the safe environment and safe space. So the story comes up, you tell me the story, and then your reaction starts coming up, and we work with the reaction within the body that is coming up. And that's the part that hits you during your life. That's the part that is problematic for you, not your story. This is how, and don't get me wrong, like, you can't ever compare the intensity of the story that people have, right? You can't, because what you need to do is to work with the reaction that is coming up, because the story has already happened. There is no way for any professional to make your story better. No way. But what you can do as a professional and as a person, you can work on that space of the reaction. This is why usually you need a professional in the beginning, because you are so reactive at the time of reaction that this is fight and flight. This is your fawn, fight, or, this is reaction. When reaction is happening, you yourself, you are not really able to suddenly work on it. So what we do in professional settings is we recreate some sort of storyline for you to start slightly reacting, and then we work with that reaction. And I think the difference of the work that I offer is that when we work with that reaction, we don't jump back to the story to tell you, so what did it happen then? We work with what's present right now. And that's how the energy moves within the body. And the energy moves within the body. I know this is a big one, but this comes from the experience within the yoga philosophy. There's energy that is within your body. There's energy centers, they move. And that's why I feel you say something, oh, I felt like that's solved, because that energy has moved from your body. That challenge, that trouble was like, I very often see my clients being like, and then they go, okay, now I'm kind of fine. And that might be after 20 minutes of crying, but that's... I hope all that made sense.
I would love for us to maybe work on the energy conversation, because being told like that, unless someone is digging into these things, it might sound maybe a bit esoteric.
Yeah.
Although I think that a very good example that everybody might be aware of is you feel stressed, and then all of a sudden you go to the gym, and after 1 hour of movements, then you don't feel stressed anymore. And I feel that, at least in my case, there was a lot of energy, which maybe meant anger that I felt in the past, disappointments and everything, that instead of letting it out when I was 6, 10 or 16, and letting it out, I guess, means either talking plainly on how I felt, it just stuck with me all throughout these years. And of course that just builds up internally, in some sort of tension, I guess. But instead what you're saying is that by focusing on the reaction, we can basically relieve that tension because you're giving it a way to basically go out, because otherwise it's just stuck inside of you.
Yeah. Yes, and I think it's quite challenging to just hear the concept of focus on your reaction and then it's going to go away. I think it's important to understand that when the reaction is happening, you are already in a reactive state, and it is very important for either someone to reflect that for you, or for you to have a very safe space for yourself. That can also sometimes be journaling, to be honest, to notice what is happening and to be with it a little bit. There's a couple of kind of slogans or things that we use as well as coaches, like something like, whatever you resist persists, right? So if you are really resisting and pushing a reaction away, it will persist to pull your sleeve in order to be released as an energy, right? Or released as a story. Something you said this is a super great example of something is happening and you go to the gym and you feel better. You go for a walk and you feel better, right? Because there is this movement, there is this energy within the body that is moving. Energy, even like your actual molecules are moving whilst you're walking, right? So things are not stuck. And there's another concept that we were speaking with you about, and it's fitting in here because you said, before the gym you feel tensed, right? If you remember, we spoke about this, a very simple answer for yourself. Does this theme story feels like tension, or does it feel like expansion? Or some people go into not relaxation, but I use tension and expansion. And when you start having these small conversations with your body, you can really notice when we are stressed, the muscles tend to tense. When we are afraid, we tend to go inwards. If, I don't know, an ambulance passes on the street and Berlin ones are very, very loud, and you are just there and suddenly it comes on, what happens? You go into tension. That is a protection mechanism, right? Now, that came from external threats that our body experiences, like people love the caveman kind of things that we ran away from, telling the stories that we ran away from mammoths and stuff. Let's say you tense. Nowadays, same things happen at work, in a relationship. When we feel threatened, we go into tension mode, we go in. Now, when we feel free, when we feel inspired by our idea, when we feel loved in a relationship or the story that we're telling, we're usually are slightly more, the muscles are slightly more relaxed, we're more expanding. So I would use these two definitions to even think about how the energy moves within your body, because it can go into tension and stuckness, and it can go into expansion and release eventually. Let's put it that way.
I think that's also a great example to understand whether something that on paper you want to do actually makes sense for you or not.
Yeah.
Because I think that even if something sounds very good and it's like a very good job opportunity, if you feel contracting, or if you don't feel like you're expanding, then probably it's not for you. Then you might still do it, just, I don't know, because of the money and you need it, and that's of course very fair. But then at least you're doing it for the right reason. And then I think that when that happens, like going into an opportunity that is good on paper but doesn't feel good in the body, at least in my case, the pattern is that I start to justify why I should do it.
Exactly.
So I just add like a lot of reasons to basically...
From here.
Yeah.
From the head. It's very funny because I actually have one coaching client, and you know I have NDAs, so I'm not like giving any names or any stories ever, but like I have one coaching client that had exactly that through our coaching, in a sense, getting a new job, which was incredible on paper, of really good money. It meant a big move towards the bigger apartment. Just like, you know, on paper, this is a upgrade, let's put it that way. Since the interview, since the day one, it was a contraction. It was a tension within the body. And for 8 months, the person was miserable in the job.
Wow.
Actually. And thank God I had enough time with the person in general, because we stayed together for longer than the 4 months, to witness and to support the second change of the company, the job, which happened after 8 months being in the company. And the second job came in as a complete expansion from day one.
Wow.
And this particular technique kind of helped to reflect, right, on these situations and make a second decision being a little bit more connected to the gut feeling that we're talking about, but connected to your body, connected to, because again, on paper, right, like not everything on paper is, you know, there's a lot of terms and conditions. Do we read 50 pages of terms and conditions? And very often the terms and conditions, like your body, your intuition is giving you those red flags of the terms of and conditions of this decision, but we just do not listen. And what I really want to add is that what we're talking about right now, even this like contraction or expansion, I usually do not give this concept to my clients before, not middle of the coaching, but at least we've been together for like a month or something. Because if you just drop these things on people, it so easily can be taken out of the context. So at first, in the C part of the coaching, in the awareness part of the coaching, I always say we turn on the light in the room and we see all the corners. We're like, okay, ooh, that's a little bit dirty. Fine, there's a spider web there. I didn't go into that corner for like 15 years. Cool. It's awareness. Then we can start work within the body in the feel part, in the middle. Then the concept of, is it the contraction expansion comes in? Because if I would have told you that within the first session, it's a little bit like, oh, but how does that even feel? Right? What? Contraction? Do I need to tense my muscle? How does that feel? So it's the concepts that also need some context and work before.
And I guess there is also the topic of properly understanding why you are contracted, because maybe in front of something that you could potentially do, maybe you feel contracted, but then you might be, I guess, misreading it. And I had taken a note on this because there was something that you had told me, which is something along the lines of, okay, feel what you're feeling and then ask the feeling, what does it want from you? And now it's me like reinterpreting what we had discussed again 1 year ago, but the way that I'm interpreting it is like, sometimes we might feel contraction, and for very valid reasons, but then the actual world is bigger than only that reason, no? So there might be still other things you could be excited about, the things that you're not taking into account. But I think that's like quite a sophisticated, no? But for anybody listening to this and just getting started, what's a good way to not only stop at contraction and expansion?
Exactly. So that's why I really wanted to iterate that it comes in a little bit later within the coaching. And I've been asked to do the coaching less in a sense of like 2 months, etc. And in the beginning of my coaching career, I did that and I accommodated the people. And I don't do that anymore. I just stay with people for 4 months. You're very, very right about the fact that we can also misinterpret things. And if we start straight away from contraction and expansion, for some people, contraction is a safety mechanism of any type of discomfort. Oh, this is out of my comfort zone. I'm not going to do this. It makes me feel contracted. Any type of growth in the very beginning is going to feel as a contraction because you will have a fear of unfamiliar, right? So it's very, very normal that you will be like, oof, don't want to go there. This is out of my league or something like this. Hence, the confidence coaching is the space where you build awareness first. And funny enough, awareness piece comes mostly from the yogic philosophy. In the yogic philosophy and meditation, everything is an awareness. You are aware of the present moment. You are aware of your breathing. You are aware of where you are, and at the end of the day, hopefully who you are, and you make decisions from there. So with some clients, I spend 3 months on an awareness piece. And that's fine. That's totally fine because I have full trust that from you being aware, it's not about the concepts or the tricks or the words you say. It's from you being aware of who you are and where you want to be going, you are going to make those decisions. So again, with some clients, this is 3 months. Some clients come from the therapy plus some kind of work on themselves before, and we spend a month on the awareness piece, etc., etc. And again, awareness piece is never over. It's an ongoing life kind of journey, which again, these concepts come more from the yogic philosophy than the quick fix, I'm gonna coach you and you are going to kill it in life.
Yeah, because I guess that sometimes we really need to iterate on the same topic for weeks and just basically work on the thing. And conceptually, we were maybe telling the coachee, or in the case you with me, maybe you were telling me the same thing in a slightly different manner for like 4 consecutive times. But then it's like, turning the keys bit by bit, no? And then after a bit, it just works.
And also, yes, and you want to allow life to happen while this work is being in process. And what I mean by that is a coaching session itself is an hour session that you come in and you come out. And then you come out, you leave through the door, and then life's happening, right? Within the yoga philosophy, that's your practice, the asana practice, the practice you do on the mat, the meditation, it is only a part of your job. The other huge part is how do you carry yourself outside of your practice? How are you outside of this coaching session? So as well, like I don't offer coaching sessions. I offer a package where you're also supported between the coaching sessions. And I offer 4 months because it's extremely important for me that you don't only come in and come out and treat this hour as something super separate from your life, something where you're dealing with things, because you're dealing with things in your life. You need time to process things. And every time, as you say, okay, so you gave an example of 4 weeks and the key turned and turned more and more. It is not only because of what we did in the coaching session. Of course, there's a big part. But it is because of the life that has happened in between. And the coaching session is the awareness bit. And then when life is happening in between, you can use that awareness and then start making different choices. If it's just, I believe personally, the coaching, the way honestly I offer it, if we would just close ourselves for 3 months in one space and then leave, you would get to know a lot about yourself, for sure. And that's how like a week's retreat is set up, right? It's like just a lot of information in one go. But allowing the life to happen, allowing the street to happen, allowing your relationships to happen, and still have the drive and kind of excitement to come back to the work that you are doing and not drop everything, this is growth. This is where you change something in your life, not just, but I'm doing the therapy, I'm doing the coaching, look, I'm turning the keys, and then I come back and I'm exactly the same person in life.
Yeah, I guess that of course, and quote unquote, of course, because it's easier to be said than to actually do this. Yeah. Like, of course, life happens both on the inner world and on the outer world, but especially we carry on our inner world in the outer world. So we live in a physical world, and the feedback loop gets completed once we do, the back and forth continuously. Yeah. I think that is like a equivalent concept in writing. If you want to be a great writer, go out there and live a great life. Because I guess it's the same thing, because otherwise, what are you even going to write about? Whatever great life means.
And the inspirations and the hurdles that come in, they come in the flow of life, obviously. And even the chance to try the tools or try the realizations that you have had within the coaching session, you will do that in your everyday life. This is where you want to see change. Not in front of me. I don't care. Sorry to say. I don't. Yeah, right. It's way more about your journey outside of the session. What session can facilitate the awareness and the depth of your understanding.
Makes sense.
Good.
Going back to, let's say, to the practicality of your work, of our journey. At the beginning, when you were trying to ask me what I was feeling, I had no idea. Then at a certain point, I had the idea, but then I wouldn't be able to properly name it. I would be like, I'm not sure if this is distress, or if it's stress, or if this is sadness. And I think that we spent quite a bit of time, basically, you teaching me, like teaching to a kid the name of emotions. And I think that at first, we just started by describing the emotions in terms of how you felt them in your body. It feels like tension on the left leg, and I feel an unusual warmth around my chest. And then we will be like, okay, let's remember these feelings for the next time, and let's see if there is a pattern. Why is it so important, or is it important? I mean, it was important to me, but is it important for most of people to name their emotions? Why does it get easier when you do that?
So, all in all, the whole work is, again, about being present with what the person needs, right? So, in your case scenario, you wear a lot in your head and you did not connect to your emotions. People are super different. right? There can't be one answer to every person. The, let's say, techniques that I'm using are not an answer to every single person. If I have a person in front of me who is highly emotionally intelligent, but very not structured, right? Very lost within the game of mind, but super emotional already. That's not going to be the way to work with that person if you are going to tell him, oh, let's go into your emotions. It's going to be a river of emotions, right? So just to understand that the work is for what is needed in a particular situation and particular person and particular moment. That's why, for example, when I say confidence coaching, right, for some people, making more structure within their life and holding their, this is going to be esoteric, masculine self is going to be the work of the confidence coaching. For someone like you, the work of the confidence coaching was, okay, getting more into your body and into your emotions. It is very important for us to name things in general. Because when we name something, A, there is less opportunity for interpretation. B, it's a bit more real, right? It's kind of like if you, as a kid, have a monster under your bed and you give them a name, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's the fears or the feelings, right? It's like when you give them a name, then you can see all of these kids' movies. Suddenly we have a little green monster who has hair and has a name and actually lives in here. So it's not something that you need to kill or put away or get rid of your life. It's there. The fear is there. We all are living in fears. We all are living in doubts. But suddenly it's not something that is working against you, stopping you that much, because it's kind of like this, oh, that's Kevin. Sorry, whoever Kevin is. The monster under my bed. He lives with me. So naming things, anything, will allow you to just familiarize yourself with that a little bit. And with the emotions, you really are not alone. And I am not some kind of an expert either. Very funnily, like a lot of times with my clients, I say, let's go on Google and put, give me 20 emotions, and then look through this and tell me what is closest to you. Because as humans, as kids, we are not taught the names of the emotions. We're not taught more than, how are you feeling? Good today. How are you today? Bad.
Yeah, it's either that or the other one.
So I usually say, give me something between good or bad. What are the words you even know? And this is in no case scenario any kind of like a judgmental way, because I'm exactly the same. I came from the same upbringing of, let's bottle this up. This is great. How are you feeling? Great. Let's go. So even naming these things will really transform the way you actually live with them or look at that.
And I guess this also works, let's say, not only on going through with the quote-unquote negative emotions, but also with the quote-unquote, again, positive things of life, no? Like, I don't know, there is this intranslatable word from Japanese, which defines the lights and the shades that goes through a forest. And so you have this very...
What's the word?
Komorebi.
Oh.
And I think that people can really appreciate the effect in front of them. But with so many friends, once I told them that this thing has actually a name, then it just gets easier for them to basically appreciate what they have in front of, because they can actually say, oh, this is Komorebi, you know?
I mean, again, language is one of the first things that we developed to even connect to each other, right? Language is something, it's funny, language is everything and language is nothing, because at the end of the day, certain word for me will mean different thing that it means for you. Even such things as love and stuff, right? Like these are the big ones, and it's for another podcast. Yet using words in the situations to explain things to yourself will allow you to, I think the best way is, familiarize yourself that this thing actually exists, that the fear does exist, that the grief does exist, that the joy does exist, right? And then we can go into the work of like, oof, okay, so wait, how does this feel? There's something also just in the back of my mind to say is like, and this is not completely mine, this I followed this guy who is like, oh my God, this is also a little bit esoteric, but his name is Sadhguru. Okay. But he's one of the kind of current Eastern gurus that is operating within the Western world, and he's huge. He has this Isha Foundation. So anyhow, he was explaining once that yes, your brain is very, very powerful, yet just look at the mirror, how much space of your body the brain is taking. And now there's more and more research about everything, right? Like about the receptors on your skin, about the way, like we dream, the energy moves through the body. So your body is what? 5 times bigger than your brain? At least, right? So just to claim that only here are all the answers in your brain, it is just a little bit, I don't know, counterintuitive for me, right? So, and I'm not that coach or that person who's going to tell you, just always follow your heart, just listen to your body, take off your shoes, go to Bali, live on the beach. Amazing, fine. We need to live in everyday reality and we need to use our brain a lot. But being a smart individual to just write off other kind of 4/5 of your body, why? And I see more and more that the more intelligent we are, the more we understand that this matters. To tap into that matters. And it's not esoteric, it's not spiritual, it's actually, it's there. You can touch it, you can see it. I'm not telling you to talk to your finger, but like, it's just really counterintuitive to say no to all of that.
100%. One of the things that I see very much undefined is anxiety. And I have in front of me the notes that I had wrote to apply to your program. And I basically talk about the fact that I was feeling constantly this generalized anxiety. That's how I was calling it, because I would just like wake up with anxiety and go to sleep with anxiety. But then I think that I wrote, I accept this anxiety, but at least I would like to understand what it is actually about. And I think that it really saddens me, because now I think that I've actually grew out of it. But I think that many people just accept this generalized anxiety because they just think that, it's one of their characteristics. So, would you like to expand on the topic of anxiety? What is it really anxiety in most of the cases?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because just from my experience, most of the times, and even if people are listening, right? Like, if you really, my methods, close your eyes, and if you're driving, do not close your eyes. But like, if you ask yourself, when you feel anxious, where does that feeling live? If you take the whole of your body, 90% of the time, all of the clients will tell some other part of the body than their head. Just weaving into the previous answer, there is so much wisdom in this whole part of your body. And I think the anxiety is really misunderstood because 90% of the times it's lived in your body. You're either feeling most of the times kind of like, something with your breath, something in your chest, it is either hyperventilating or is it kind of contractions that you're feeling when you wake up and you're like, okay, there's these things that need to happen right now, right? But because this feeling lives within the body, and we usually mostly live within our head and try to explain things from the head, that's why the anxiety is mostly really misunderstood, because we try to give reasons and tools, but cognitive tools to actually deal with it, right?
Would you say that anxiety is, usually speaking, unrealized fears or worrying? Because I've read that recently for someone that, like, in his experience, anxiety is usually like a stack of worries and fears that haven't been properly felt, understood, whatever.
Honestly, if you want to explain it cognitively, probably, yeah, it could be one of it. I would say that anxiety is one of the reactions that we develop, the same as when our parasympathetic nervous system jumps into the sympathetic and wants to fight. For all of us, and I have these questions actually in the pre-discovery call session questions that people answer. I always ask, what do you believe is your fight and flight mode? Do you fight? Do you flight? Or do you fawn? Fight is you react back, shout, do things. Fight. Flight, you run away and you're like, I'm not Philip and dealing with that. Or fawn is kind of like, I just want everything to be good and everybody to feel good, so I don't want to fight you. I'm just going to do everything that is to be done to balance the situation out. So forget my own needs and just do whatever you need in order to kind of level the situation.
That's me, by the way.
And I think, so this is something, right, researched, and the names are given to that, fight, flight, fawn. But I believe that such things as anxiety, such things as even insomnia are like a kind of like a byproduct of these reactions that we have. This is a byproduct of how we are trying to survive and live the everyday life.
Yeah. Maybe to close it off, you mentioned before the topic of masculinity, femininity, and so on, because I think that when we talk about it under those terms, there might be, I don't know, resistance about it, especially, I guess, from, let's say, from the male community. And in fact, whenever I talk about this to other people that I don't know really well, I usually use the terms yin and yang, emotional and rational, just to make it like a little bit easier to understand. But before going to the actual question, I would like to read one of the answers that I gave to one of your questions before I applied to the program. And I wrote, on the emotions, I want to be able to discern them and better understand them, because as of now, whenever I feel something negative, let's say anxiety, I have no idea why I feel it. Once I'm able to do that, I want also to be able to truly trust those emotions, merging together my rational side, highly developed, and my heart side, underrepresented.
One thing with you is just like, it was such a blessing because of the way you put words into action. So that's definitely a blessing.
Thanks a lot.
That was an easy part on my side, like, okay, great.
Thanks for that. So, first of all, let's actually define what we mean with masculinity and femininity. And does each one of us holds both things inside of us?
We do, of course. And I think the very grounded way would also be masculinity, something of a structure, is a structure in your life, as you say, rationality, right? It's also masculine usually is a presence of, how can I say, like in a best expression, groundedness. You can think about a tree, which is just kind of there, whatever is happening, right? So it's a side of you that, let's say, is also, it is confident, but it's more grounded, it's structured, it's giving you this sort of space, right? And feminine in general within the kind of yogic traditions, it's a power of creation. It is also very normal for us if we do go man and a woman. Women do create life. But also feminine is your energy that is a little bit more in flow, right? Let's do a very simple actually example, right? So let's say we've decided to meet for this podcast, right? And you said we're meeting at 11:30, right? Actually, sorry, let's go back to this. We decided to meet for this podcast. And the first date that we came up with, so the decision to meet for it, and you were structural, you went, this is going to be the date, this is going to be the time, this is what we're going to do in this time. That is your masculine side, right? This is great. Now, I come back to you and say, hey, actually this week, this date doesn't suit me. So if you are extremely expressed in your masculine and you do not allow the feminine, the flow, the understanding, the emotions to be there, a lot of people are, by the way, we live in Germany, are like, they get super tensed. They get, wait, what? We need to reschedule, or she's late, right? So the structure is there, but the flow within the structure doesn't happen. You are not allowing a change. You are not allowing again, the flow of life to happen, which you are totally fine with. You go, we reschedule. And then the other week comes and you go to me, hey, actually, this is not working for me. Can we do it next week? So the feeling of this feminine is that you can allow the flow within the structure. Now, what happens then? The challenge happens if you are only within the feminine. Because we don't talk about this very much, right? We talk a lot about, oh, people are stiff, they're in a masculine, You can be very in your feminine and have zero structure. When energy is trying to create something with zero structure, it's like a universe, right? It's like, the energy is everywhere. You see these people of highly creative, could really achieve something, but they are like, I'm starting this thing. Oh no, I'm going on holidays. No, I'm starting this third thing. Oh no, I'm moving the country. Things like that. There's zero structure. But their feminine is going around and trying to create something, but when it's not contained, life on this planet started because it's contained to this planet. If we leave this planet, we can't live, right, in the cosmos. We needed the container of the earth in order for the flow in the waters to happen, and life has been created from the force of both. And this is what we want. Ideally, it's a dance within ourselves. We want enough structure, enough groundingness within our own self in order to allow the space for creation, for new ideas to come to fruition, for these ideas even to be pulled from your subconscious forward. If you don't have the structure, if you drop the masculine completely, let's use these words, then it's also chaos, right? And actually, funny enough, in a yogic traditions, feminine is chaos.
Wow.
Is the chaos, and it's this chaos, it's the Big Bang. It's what makes life happen.
So I guess that's whenever someone wants to begin something and maybe it doesn't really make sense on paper because, I don't know, it's still nothing, like it still needs to be created, then I guess that the person ought to go more into his feminine and just, I guess, trust that this curiosity needs to be brought out there. And then only once the thing is created and, I don't know, maybe you want to grow it or whatever, then you decide with your masculine where to, let's say, where to take it, or
yes,
something like that.
Exactly. And within this work, within the coaching, what we work a lot on is the trust. I love that you put this word forward, because just before we went, we really need to put this forward. Like, we work a lot on the trust within yourself. Circle back to what confidence is, confidere, trust within yourself and the world. And what we do is, working on that trust, we put structures around it.
Okay.
That's the structures of the tools that we're using with you when we're meeting. This is the 4 months. And we learn how to trust, so cheesy, trust the process and allow the process to happen. So whenever you do have that idea, right, and it's just an idea, you need to put yourself back in a structure of research, of like, how am I going to allow this to happen? But also, and this is cool for you entrepreneurs, like, you can't be innovative without that trust that you need to pull that idea from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if you're tensed, and if you're structured, and if you do not allow the creative part of you to come up, you're not going to come up with a new idea. It's going to be old. And if you're creating a startup, if you're creating something that has never been there before, you can't do it without the feminine part.
I guess wonderfully put. Thanks a lot for all the wisdom. I think that we, of course, just barely scratched the surface. But if people want to work with you, they know where to find you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brando.